Let's do that. Hi, good morning. This is we're reconvening the this is Terrence Canale, General Counsel of the Steamship Authority, and we're reconvening here the General Manager Search Committee at 11 o'clock for continuing our interviews. And I have to just make a few announcements. So I would like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. If you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you are joining by telephone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
I don't see anybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Continuing on. All right, let me just continue on here, Bob. We just have remote participation, and then I'll let you go. So pursuant to Section 20 of the Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021 as amended, search committee members are participating remotely in today's meeting because their physical attendances today would be unreasonably difficult. All search committee members in attendance and all members participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app will be clearly audible to each other. As a result of the members' remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken by the members today shall be by roll call vote. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jones.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Jonathan and Matthew. Welcome aboard.
Good morning.
Can you hear me all right? You can.
I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much.
Super.
We have one member that's having technical difficulties, and he'll be joining us, but I will start off. We will be asking, about 8 different questions, swapping around to different members here. And I will just start with the questions. This is on the criteria of the executive search and your experience. Can you summarize your experience conducting executive searches of a nature similar to this particular search? And there's 2 other questions with that. Have you conducted executive searches for positions that are public facing? And I'll explain that to you. In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we have what is known as the open meeting law, which means that all business must be done in the open sessions. We will conduct this interview here, and when we get to the point of we have candidates provided by yourself, all of that will be an executive session. We respect the confidentiality of each member or each person that applies, and we'll hold fast to that. At the end, however, when we do select the candidate, we will be in open session. And so that's to be known up front by any candidate that's going to apply here. So, and the third part of that is how will you recruit and assess candidates that understand the importance of customer service in a complex setting like the Steamship Authority? So if you want to take those and elaborate on it, please do so.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for having us today, and good morning. Okay, so executive search. Well, I've been in executive search now on and off for 10 years within the maritime sector at Faststream Recruitment. We're the global leader in maritime recruitment, established in 1999. Just for a bit of context, we're 100 people. And we have a fully global remit with UK offices and offices in Singapore and a US team and Panama. My experience, and we've thought about this, how to best present this to you. My experiences in executive search in the senior maritime space across all sectors of maritime, I think it's fair to say it's rare to see an opportunity of this type, and they don't come up that often. So I was thinking, what might be the best examples to share with you to underline some of the search work we did? And I thought about whether it's a ferry industry or a government organization. And one of the searches that I think I'd like to share with you, just to underline the experience that I've had and that we've had as a business, is we were working with Europe's largest ferry organization. So that's the Stena Line, headquartered out of Stockholm in Sweden. And we had a pan-European search for a head of industrial relations. So they're a highly unionized business, for example. And we were set a pretty difficult task of finding a replacement for their head of industrial relations. And for those that are familiar with the sector, that is a very rare skill set. I would say the demographics are on the older end, and there's not a lot of fresh blood coming through, so it's quite a difficult sector to recruit with. It was a multi-sector search across maritime, rail, possibly aviation, all unionized industrial relations settings. And we brought together a pan-European search to find a candidate for them that could push them forwards. I would say it's probably the hardest search I've done in my career, actually, in this industrial relations space. We found the correct candidate for the organization. They're still in place today. They are pushing forwards and being promoted through the organization. And I think whilst it's slightly banging the drum for us here, the client or the head of HR at the organization did comment that it was the hardest search they'd ever undertaken in this space. And I thought it had read-across value being a large ferry organization. I appreciate you're not the same size and scale, but it was relevant and a unionized space. So I thought that might be one to share. But if I may describe Faststream's experience in executive search, it is eclectic and it's across the whole of the maritime organization. So whilst we will work with the largest shipping organizations in the world, we also work with small startup businesses and everything in between. The government space, if I'm being totally upfront, and I don't wish to stretch the point too thinly, is a rare subset of that, and it doesn't come up too often. So we were thinking about what is in our search expertise bag that would be most applicable to your business, and we can certainly come on to why we think we might be appropriate for the Steamship Authority. Anything you'd like to add to that, Matt, before I take part two?
No, continue.
I was just bringing my colleague Matthew in, who would be supporting me in this search should we be successful, and I wanted to bring him in just to ask any comments he may have.
No, I think that's a really good example, Jonathan. Thank you.
Okay. Now, the open sessions that you describe, if we're talking about being in the public domain, that's a very rare event. We've not come across it as Faststream previously. So I think the short answer to your question is we haven't conducted open session public facing processes before, and I think we would need to find our way through that with the best process for all parties.
Well, I understand your answer, and you know, it's something that we have to live with.
Yeah.
And basically, we all know, I mean, confidentiality is key, you know, to finding good candidates and things of this nature. And a lot of people don't want to even apply if they have to expose themselves to their employers that they're looking for somebody in another venture or something. So it's something we have to live with, but to the vetting of the individual candidates, that will be absolutely private and confidential. And it won't be until the end that we either present, we don't know exactly what we'll do, either one candidate or two candidates or three candidates, we don't know. But at that point there, it would be open discussion, you know, with the board and, you know, an interview, you know, expanding on what they've already told us. Difficult, don't know how to get around it. We'd like to, but that's what is handed to us, unfortunately.
So we had some thoughts about that. I think to be open and honest and upfront, and I think you've identified this, it will be a rate limiting factor for some, although it may not come in until the end of the process. And we may need to make, well, we would make people entirely aware of that upfront. And if they don't want to go forward on that basis, I guess we have two options. They don't, or we find a way that satisfies the bylaws and the processes you need to work within. And I don't know if there are any previous examples of workarounds or whether that just is a status quo that cannot be moved. One idea we had was perhaps, and I don't know whether technology will allow, if there's any kind of anonymous interviewing available or a redacted format when it is released to the public, because it's fine if you're the successful candidate, if the videos are released at the right time, but if you are not and you stay in post, that is an issue for some. If that can't be done, then there may be candidates that are entirely comfortable with that process, in which case we proceed. Or frankly, the search just has to be that much wider to include candidates who are comfortable with that situation. And that might be a limiting step, but we will be discussing that as we go, and with candidates and with yourselves.
Yeah, I understand something like that hasn't been tested yet, but for myself, if there's some way of doing it, we're all ears.
I think the really important thing here is finding the right candidate for the next general manager of the Steamship Authority. If you've had 37 good years with the incumbent, that's a good tenure. So there'll be a lot of experience and a lot of goodwill there to hand over, but you need the right person to be in place. The disaster, of course, would be you find the wrong candidate, the handover's done, maybe Mr. Davies is exit the business after a period of time, and then the new incumbent fails in post. So we as Faststream will be making every effort to make sure you have the correct individual. And if that is in a situation where confidentiality is an issue, then we just have to have those discussions up front. And it might be that an individual, once they get to a certain point in the process, is prepared to take the risk. And that might be an area where one or two drop out, but we'll make every effort to include them in the process in an open and fair manner. We don't want any surprises at the end for all parties.
Well, I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I understand the problem. We all understand the problem because we have to work with it every day. And in private enterprise, there's no problem. Confidentiality is key to searches in different firms and different companies and stuff, and it goes on all the time. But when you have that a state law, it makes it difficult. But I'm hoping we don't not attempt to find that best candidate that would be willing to come forward with enough confidence that he would get the job.
And there may be a level of confidence required in discussion on both sides for them to present themselves at the final stage. And that, I think that the spirit of open dialogue at all stages is important here. A search firm that disappears under the waves for a couple of months and presents a shortlist at the end with little dialogue is probably missing the opportunity to tailor the search based on discussion and questions from candidates as they come through. So we would certainly want to make this an active partnership, because if we're not an ambassador, a trusted partner and a reliable proxy for you in the market, then we're not selling the opportunity well enough or wide enough to get the right candidates for your organization, which is a unique and I have to say extremely attractive opportunity, which clearly doesn't come up on a regular basis. But there are unique challenges to this search as much as there are unique attractors, and we will just have to cross that bridge when we come to it. And that may relate to a candidate's buy-in for the opportunity thus far in the process.
Thank you. Jim, back to you.
I think I'm up next.
Jim, you're muted.
I think I'm up next.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, do we need to answer the third part of that question, which was around how we would recruit candidates who are strong within the customer service sector?
Yeah, you can certainly touch on that. I don't want to, we've got several questions to come up here, but please just touch on it.
Sure. Just to touch on that, I think it comes down to us obviously targeting individuals who are working for firms and organizations that have been public facing and do require customer service. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were aware of that. And so we obviously have to target the right types of individuals who have previous experience in that.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot, Matthew and Jonathan, for your interest in this. So you've touched on some of where my questions were going to go, which was sort of like the next level down from Bob's about executive search experience in the maritime space. And obviously that's where you guys focus. So those two kind of go hand in hand. But maybe I'll drill into the question a little bit more. And that is, what is your kind of current sort of perception of the marketplace right now for this position, or as your understanding of this position?
That's a good question. I think the honest and frank answer is we need to be in the market to find out. With all unique searches of this type, we can have our assessment and preconceptions of how attractive this will be. I think this is a hearts and minds role as much as it is a engaging with the community role, as much as it's a technical role and a leadership role. So to find all of those qualities in an individual is going to be rare. And therefore, it's hard to say exactly what those individuals are thinking with regards to the opportunity right now. But what I will say is, once we identify the right people, the energy that they have and the motivations will be aligned. It's worth touching just on the part 3 of Mr. Jones's question, and it relates to yours, is that when we interview candidates, we're not out in the market selling jobs. That's quite key. We're out in the market identifying the best talent, the best motivations that fit, the best cultural fit, the best understanding, leadership, and technical skills. And we do those discussions before really we present the role in any kind of detail. In fact, if we can, we don't present the role in much detail at all to really understand the individuals behind the CVs before we might even talk about your role. So in terms of the perception, I think you're living in a fantastic part of the world. I think that it's attractive to people who can afford to come and live in your area or are already there. We made note of the median living costs and property prices, which are a little on the higher side, and we need to make sure people can financially afford to come, not just tick all the other boxes. And we're aware that you're a relatively small town. If I take the 2020 census numbers, just over 32,000 people, and I've been under half of that in Nantucket. So it's a small community, and these roles are rare. But for that reason, if we spread the net wide enough, which is what our search methodology will encompass, we will find those people that are looking for this rare opportunity. So it's not, does everyone want to do this job? It's, can we find those who are specifically suited for the role? And that, I think, is our expertise in executive search across a global remit. And in this case, the US is a more defined territory.
Yeah, I won't hold you to it, but how long do you think a search like this might take?
Again, I think that's the right question to ask. And there is an interplay between the speed of a search and the quality and depth of a search. If you said to me, this is urgent, it needs to be done in 3 weeks, I'd be nervous. And I'd probably say to you that we wouldn't want to commit to that. Typically, we'd like to say to you 10, 12 weeks, 3 months as a median, because this search needs to go deeper than top line. This is, I made a sort of glib comment on a piece of paper that people would come for the view and stay for the people. But what I mean by that is that, people have to really understand the lifestyle, the opportunity here, the culture, the community, the challenges. And they're not just one quick top line conversation. And it may be with the open sessions that you have that we need a wider candidate pool to guarantee you a successful shortlist. So I would say 3 months on average, and to go a lot less than that is probably on the rush side.
Great, thanks for that. Nat, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Jonathan and Matthew. So what you've done your homework a little bit, I can tell. What is your perception of the key challenges facing the Steamship Authority today?
Well, we've made quite an extensive list. And if you hear rustling of paper,
Don't want to
then
go that.
that's me refreshing myself, because there's a lot of moving parts here, Mr.
There
Lovell,
is.
and I appreciate that. You know, we're new to this. We're learning your names, let alone the nuances of the Steamship Authority. So, yeah, there's a lot of, well, if we're talking about challenges in the role, primarily what we see as the key components and elements of this role. I top-lined it so we could go on, but I don't want to take too much time.
Yep.
In no particular order, we've already identified environmental issues, local issues relating to that. We were reading an article around well, I don't know if it's still live, but the proposed speed limits for ferries, and that was, I think, due to whale conversation. That might be a hot topic locally. Forgive me if it is. But you have a fleet of electric vehicles that you're thinking about future-proofing your organization. There's terminal constructions. There's solar power. There's propulsion discussions. There's a lot of technical discussions as they relate to the environment. And that person, I think, if they're going to bring leadership in that space, should have some exposure to that. Top of the list should have been, and always is, so I put it number 2, but that's not downgrading it, a safety and operational expertise, because if a ferry service is not safe and reliable, we've got problems. I pick up from discussions prior and our thoughts since that personnel management, you know, your 60 people, rough numbers, if that's correct, in Falmouth, but in the high season you can have plus 700 staff, and that may be temporary to hit peak demand. So an understanding of hiring, flexible labor, supply would be pretty key. But then there's other topics: capacity planning, freight versus passenger, sailings. If something's at the dockside at 4 a.m., you haven't got many passengers, so your ships are not full. This is a key lifeline for your local services. So, and residents. So actually having an ambassador and someone who's seen as part of the community as an extension to their lives is critical here, and they need to see themselves as that and really understand what that means. This is not a corporate role. This is not a corporate organization individual. And then we've got efficiencies and operational excellence, just because every cost spent, every dollar spent is another, number of cents on a fare for people that have this as a critical lifeline, or we don't want to discourage tourism in the region. So they're just a few examples. I've got a longer list, but these are things we would work up with you in a detailed briefing should we be successful, such that we really have a good handle on this when we go to the market. And I think producing a proper candidate pack to attract people with our narrative on the top would be the way forward here. And I'll bring Matthew in here if he has any further comments on that question.
Just a few things, I guess, to add would be, you obviously mentioned personnel and recruiting of personnel. Recruiting of certainly crewing is one of the most complex and difficult things for US, well, in the US and globally. So hiring and retaining crew for the vessels is essential, and to understand that difficulty. You obviously with the projects that you've got going on, and with the onboarding of the new vessels that you've got coming in, which will hopefully and absolutely enhance the Steamship Authority's offering, and the opening of the Woods Hole project that's for the terminal as well. And so somebody who's going to be able to come in and handle any issues that will arise from that. Have we answered your question?
Yeah. Yes. And again, there's no way you can answer it perfectly, but you've done your homework pretty well from your position. It's the bigger issue here is the differences between each port's, the nuances, whether it be on the port side or the island side. They operate I always say the only thing we got related is the water.
Mhm.
They're very different, and that is not easy to navigate. You have to be this person will have to be a really good listener to the existing management team and people that work here that have been here for a number of years that fully understand what goes on both sides. So
And somebody, sorry, and I was
Yeah.
just going to say, and somebody
Yeah.
who can is able to communicate at board level, but also on the ground as well.
yes, yeah, they have to be. You have to be able to be sort of like old school and new school, and
Yeah.
in winter and summer, sort of in the same person. Like this, just this isn't, you know, I don't want to try to say a cruise ship where it's always got people walking on and walking off, and it kind of, other than the weather, it just keeps happening. This is different here. There's a lot of different nuances that occur here that there has to be a level of understanding as to what the right decision is, and who to listen to, and who to talk to, and who to reach out to. Okay, so follow up would be, how would you tailor the search to attract, and this was kind of answered earlier a little bit about the location and stuff like that. It is an attractive place to live. I mean, it always looks glamorous though, if you're not here, and when you get here, the makeup kind of runs off, and you finding out all the things that aren't so great sometimes, but like being stuck and all that. But anyway, how would you tailor the search to attract the right candidate to face these challenges that that they'll inevitably have?
Well, I think everything in good recruitment, especially the executive search, starts with a detailed briefing, and that may be likely to be an ongoing discussion. We hope we are sharing that we have done quite a bit of homework. I feel almost part of the community, but I've only got 20 years of living there to be. Maybe you know my name, but the point is, what we need to do is find the right skills, the right people from roughly the right sizes and types of organization. Interestingly, we're a maritime organization, but we have a sister brand, Goose, which is actually an aviation organization. So we sit across the maritime space, the aviation space, and we see synergies between. So that might open up things a little bit. And we've done, we'll talk about sectors and where you feel more or less comfortable that people might come from, size of organization. But I think everything starts from the right briefing. So we understand what perfect or good looks like. We understand the areas of flexibility and where there may be a little bit of give and take for the right individual that has all the core elements and skills that you need, because after 37 years in post, there are going to be skills that Robert leaves with that maybe takes time to learn or get up to speed with.
Yeah.
And we're the same, but we want to be the best ambassador we can be in the market for you. We'll find the right skill set, but this is a lot of lifting of stones to find the nugget of gold underneath. We are not under any illusions. This is reach out to 20 people and 10 will say yes, and 5's your shortlist, and 10 minutes later you've got your hire. One thing I would say that sets us apart is we don't set out our models or pricing models or our recruiting efforts to be done by a certain time. We're out of here. We are committed to a search. We'll stay the course, and we'll search the market to find the right individuals. And critical is understanding the individual, the candidate's heart, mind, motivation, limiting factors before we go too far down the line. If they're in line with what you need, then we have confidence to proceed. The technical bits are they will be tick boxes at the end. They'll be really, really important, but the bits that will kill a search will be things that we as a specialist search firm will cover off up front. We are your first and probably second interview in the market before they even come to you. So that the net wide, using all the tools at our disposal and our expertise will give us enough coverage to find those nuggets of gold. But it is panning for gold, not just collecting rocks and hoping for the best, if I may be a little bit glib about it.
Yep, agreed. That's good explanation. And then final question is, for me, is how do you ensure the confidentiality throughout this process?
Well, as a professional recruiter, I have to get out of bed in the morning and go to bed at night knowing that everything I've done is confidential.
Yeah.
So I work in an industry that really the currency we have is confidentiality. We don't have a business actually or a brand without confidentiality, and we are extremely hot on that we are very careful with who we employ, the information that we share, and we're well trained. This is not going to be thrown open to the entire organization and people running around sharing information. That we are a very small, unique division within the much wider Faststream group that is highly experienced. We probably have 10, 15, 20 years of experience each. And this is our day job. So it's a good question,
Yep.
but it's probably not something we really spend a lot of time ourselves thinking on, because it's all under the heading of confidentiality. Hence, sharing with you the unique nature of the public forum at the end, and that is, whilst new to us, we'll work around it, or we can't. That's just black or white sometimes. If there's no give, there's no take, then we have a choice. But for us, it's unless for example, we work with clients whose name must not get into the market under in any shape or form. Let's say that it's not a retirement situation that's publicly known. Let's say there's all sorts of sensitivities. We will do global searches under NDAs, whatever is needed. So actually, this role probably is just day to day for us. There's no question about that.
Thank you. Jim?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Loud and clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, sorry to have late, but the bloody computer didn't work, so now I'm on my phone. Having listened to virtually all of it so far, in terms of the general manager job description, which you've seen, there are things that are in there. I mean, it's quite expansive. There are things that you might wish to underscore or eliminate or modify or help us with. But given what you've heard in terms of the needs and the requirements of the Steamship Authority, what's your sense of the key attributes that we are looking for in a general manager?
Sorry, James, could you just repeat the last bit?
What's your sense of the key attributes that are critical to this candidate being successful?
Okay. Well, if I hear anything from you, it's someone needs to be adaptable across all situations, interpersonal, regional, and have a core personality that can deal with people at all levels and be seen as a leader that people can trust and is an ambassador for your business. I think without that, if someone is is hiding behind a desk or is not a visible face pushing the community forward and being a trusted figure, then we have a problem. So I would say that's number one. Number two would be the experience from running an organization that is multifaceted, that from a finance perspective, through operations, through future planning and strategy, and can come in with maybe new, fresh ideas that can help move you forwards. So top line, I think those two things are really important, but there's lots of soft skills and nuances that we would cover off, but probably they would be the top two that I go to immediately. Matthew, what would you like to add in there?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would add that we would work with you as well to create a person spec to add in addition to the actual job description, to try and attract somebody, attract the people that will best fit the role. So we would probably work with you to, as long as you're happy to create a candidate pack to present to people that would headline the job description, the person spec, salary, benefits, and sell on the company to enable to invoke interest from those people.
Okay, that's helpful. Let me then follow up with, do you think we can find a person who will have those attributes, but also will have demonstrated the ability to lead a organization with a who has a track record of change management?
I have to say, in the maritime industry, that's not an uncommon requirement. I would say that most areas of maritime have plenty of work still to do, and they have transformational change across the organizations, whether that's infrastructure, IT, environmental, personnel, you name it. This is common, a common requirement. And I would say that's the mandate to change and the mandate to transform an organization, not necessarily revolution on day one, but evolution as you go through the next stages of your life cycle as an organization, is probably one of the more attractive features in a role. Being a caretaker is a certain type of individual, and they can keep the status quo, and that's okay. But most times we get people wanting to make an impact. So I think the transformational piece is what might attract the better candidates, because if somebody's good, they want to bring what good looks like, and that could be to the upside for your organization, and that will bring the better people.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I was just following up on that. Your often ability to work with us to develop this thing, is high on my list. And how, as we work through this and try to develop, the proper offer to a candidate and stuff, how will you keep us informed on, a weekly, bi-weekly, or whatever basis of where we stand and what we need to do? In other words, I look at this as kind of a working relationship. And I think you're going to need from us, all of the input that we can give us, and we're going to need for you to tell us what we're doing right and wrong. Do I assume that's part of this relationship?
Well,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
sorry. I was just, absolutely agree. And we can work with you on your, to organize a weekly call or a fortnightly call, or however we decide, if we're appointed, we can come together to do a briefing and decide that. What I might just add is that although I am based in the UK, I only recruit in the US, and I work US hours, so I can be available for meetings and calls at any time within your working hours as well. So I appreciate that we arrange this meeting for on a time that would work for both of us this time. But yeah, I can be open for meetings and weekly calls to update on our search and to develop the search as we go along.
Thank you so much. I think you've touched on most everything that I had here. Rob, do you want to pipe in?
Yep, thanks. So I'd like to pick up a little bit, Matthew, on your point about the US. I think that's a feature
Sure.
we'd be interested in understanding. Obviously, this is a US based position. And while we recognize the benefits of a global search,
Yes.
it would certainly seem like as a first order, US candidates would be a pretty high priority to make sure we've covered that as well as we possibly can. So it would be interesting to understand, that process for you guys, just how much you do that, how you would develop those, what relationships you have that would, allow you to, cover the US in as comprehensive a way as possible.
Yeah. So So to put your mind at rest on that, we so Faststream did establish offices in the US, originally in Fort Lauderdale and later in Houston. So, and that was in probably around 15 to 20 years ago. The exact date I can't quite remember, but we had offices up until March 2020 in Houston when COVID came along, and we then moved to have recruiters in the UK, but still focused on US recruitment, and I'm one of those. So we have a very good network, a well-established network in the US, an extremely well-established database of candidates and clients in the US. And I, apart from the very occasional role that may be for a US client who is recruiting globally, 99% of the positions that I recruit for are for US candidates to work in US roles. I
Are these senior roles like the one we're talking about?
VP roles, or they could be, and they could be anything from a port engineer to a senior VP. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And to touch on the global aspect of it, I think that there is a small chance that there may be somebody who is an American or has the right to work in America who is not currently in America, but maybe living elsewhere, but interested in returning to the US. But I think there's a really strong chance that this person is already in the US and is an American citizen or a green card holder. I don't envisage us providing you with a short list of Europeans who are interested in, or any other nationality that are interested in moving to the US to do this role. There may be, but I think it's very highly unlikely that you would, because you would then have to enter into having to try and sponsor somebody to come to the US and do this role. And I don't think that they will have the understanding of the culture and values and that this person is going to require and for this role. So
you said that very delicately.
Thank you. I was trying.
I'll pass it on to Nat. Over to you, Nat.
Delicately and accurately.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you so much. I love these conversations. They have similarities, but they have their uniqueness I've picked up on now after this long. So my favorite question that I have, can you tell us a successful search that would be relevant to this one, or tell us an unsuccessful as well, if you have any, just to kind of make it reality based?
Sure. Well, let's be honest. Occasionally, a search won't complete, but we'll come back to that one in just a moment. In terms of searches that might be relevant, look, I've touched already on the head of industrial relations. That was a large ferry organization. When I think about other roles we've done, they're not going to be. The US market's not that big, so to have a similar company down the road, small ferry organization Mark II, that's a challenge for any search firm, unless they're lucky and they've just completed something, in which case they may have a perceived advantage. But we don't feel that will hold us back. So if I think about trying to find, and what we're really talking about here is a consensus candidate that everybody agrees on and will take you forward to the next level. Because I get, the message that comes to us and the diligence we've seen in the preparation just for these meetings that you've put in behind the scenes is there's going to be multiple stakeholders that need to be happy and confident in this person joining your organization. So I would allude to a search I did for a non-government, non-profit organization who were a small business They were a European-wide secretariat. They were actually an international society. They were formed to provide technical advice across gas tankers and terminal operators. And they were looking for quite a long time to find someone in their traditional image in their world. And we produced them a nice short list of industry professionals that they wanted to see per the brief. What transpired from that and what happens in searches and how searches can take a twist is that they realized when they found people who were as they've always been, that wasn't the way to take them forwards. So we rediscussed the position once we'd ticked the original brief and refocused this role from being traditional gas sector technical people to what they really wanted to be, which was a voice of the future, future fuels, future transformation of the industry orientated. But to give you a little context, the board for this organization was approximately 20 different members from all the sectors of the maritime industry had a member on the board. And that was everyone from the US, the Europeans, and the Asia communities. And so we needed to find a consensus CEO of this business who was publicly facing and publicly, maybe not public in the same sense that you described, but it was the head of this advisory nonprofit organization that satisfied 20 board members and also the management of the organization. And it was a long search. It twisted and turned when they saw the people that they then realized weren't right for their organization. And I think what I'm saying here is we will use all the skills we've learned over 25 years in business and my personal 19 plus years of recruitment, which is ticking up rather rapidly, to find the right solution for you. But that is by continual dialogue and reassessing if we're heading in the right direction. And it might be that when we present candidates to the agreed brief, there are things that are missing that we need to then go out and find again, just because that's what you discover when you start talking to people that we maybe hadn't thought of. I don't know if that helps you with your answer.
Yep. No, it's going to be a personal story. It's going to be unique to your own business situations that you've had, and that's what's happened with that question with everybody. So, and it also brings out, honesty and reality, that has inevitably happened to everybody. So, well, thank you very much.
Things can go wrong. Just to touch on a search that didn't go so well, because I think for balance, it's fair to comment on that. I can't recall a time when we produced candidates, and I generally was thinking about this when we came to the meeting, where we failed to satisfy a client based on an initial shortlist of people they wanted to interview, because we would keep going in that setting and there would be a rediscussion, and that's a very unusual event. More commonly, if a search doesn't progress, it may be that just literally a client will realize that what they're asking for does not exist in the market and possibly doubles back and revisits, and this has happened, revisits their own internal talent. And it depends what they have internally. And on occasion, the dreaded internal candidate, if you're a recruiter, will pop up. And if you're on a no-win, no-fee basis, that's a little tough of my colleagues in general recruitment. But that it can be that searches don't complete on that basis. But in terms of finding people, I think we don't just put in a couple of weeks and then call it quits. We will work with you to find the right solution.
Yep. Thank you so much. Excellent. Who is next? Jim.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you next? Yes.
Next indeed. Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen, just a quick clarification. Are you currently working in the US or are you back in the UK? Have you come back since COVID has moderated?
So we don't have an office in the US. I'm currently in the UK and will remain in the UK, but I only recruit in the US. I only recruit US roles for US or European companies who have offices in the US. So in the last 5 years, 100% of my positions have been in the US.
Thank you, Matthew. I understand. Thank you. Okay, for either of you, we're interested in what you consider to be the key elements of your engagement agreement with us, and what consideration, pardon me, would you give to candidates that have already approached us?
Okay. Yeah, so candidates that come directly or are known to you or words to that effect are always, it's good to discuss up front.
That's why I'm doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, well, no, it's quite right. Well, actually, okay, so what I would say is this, we've priced this search to be a thorough process that is right for you, and there's a significant discount applied, and we felt that was the right thing to do for an organization of your type. However, you would be paying for the process rather than the person. So my view on that is, and I think it's right to all parties because a lot of work goes in on these searches, as part of the wider candidate pool, you would need to share those candidates with us, and we'd put them through the same process. In essence, it would be the same financial agreement, whoever goes through and is successful at the end. And I think standardizing a process with a third party and all the extra, the same work and attention to detail that goes with that is the right thing to do. A two-tier search, for example, is rarely as successful. And I think in this sort of publicly moderated space, we need to be careful that there's an even process applied.
Thank you. That's certainly fair and understandable.
Sorry, I would just add to it something that I thought of, that there is the advantage of that they go through the same process as us is that people being people tell us things that they may not tell you. And we can then take that into consideration when we're putting together our shortlist as well.
Okay, thank you for that. The last question I have is actually twofold. One is, what have we missed in asking you that you think we should ask you? And two, what questions do you have for us?
Okay, well, I suppose it's a bit of a cliche question, but what might our USPs be? Might be an interesting one that we feel is a little different to perhaps other recruitment businesses you may be talking to or in general. Well, we're the world's largest recruitment maritime organization, but we recruit multi-sector into the maritime organization, so we're not limited to that, and our aviation brand and other search work highlights that. We're not in the US. That might be the elephant in the room, or it might be an advantage. We hope it's the latter, but we are a trusted third-party brand of 25 years experience, and people trust us and will take our call. And I think being out of country, possibly a little bit removed from the ground, is a safe space for people to talk to us. And that is where you get a lot more nuances and what really is going to drive people, because we don't want to get to the point where there's disappointment at the end. One thing that's rarely discussed in recruitment, and I think it's really important, is the individual recruiter that you're dealing with. And I'll leave that for you to assess, but I would say that we have the mechanical recruitment experience, but emotional intelligence for us is very high on the list of people qualities that we use at Faststream to employ people, because it's a people industry. Getting people immediately able to open up, trust us, and share the truth rather than the gloss or veneer is really, really important. So be able to get behind the person on the CV, I think, is one of our most important attributes. And I think that's not something you can teach. That just comes from experience. And just purely on a factual point, we probably have, and I bet that we do, have the largest maritime database in the world of well over 400,000 individual candidate records. So that might be quite a nice number just to bear in mind. And if they all know somebody who knows somebody, that's probably quite a large figure.
Yes, it is. Well, it certainly helps, because one of the things I've learned from, 55 odd years in the industry, hiring is very, very hard. It's the hardest thing you do, because inevitably you're drawn to hiring the best actor. So
wow,
that's where your expertise in getting behind the smile would be very, very important. As long as we provide you with real information about what the successful candidate has to have demonstrated and be able to provide.
Well, on that note, we're not afraid to ask the tough questions, but I think you only can get to that when you've built the rapport and trust. And from a briefing, we would have I think in this case, it certainly warrants some kind of experience or assessment, agreed pillars or grid, or however you wish to assess a candidate. So there's a scoring system that gives you a feeling of fairness and equitability across the interview. So we would want to standardize and agree what that looks like with you. But I have to say that it's the person face to face in this world that's still successful in recruitment, because a lot of information is public. LinkedIn, you can see most people. And yes, we have a lot of referrals and information that's well beyond that. But it's what you do face to face. And, it's a contact sport, we say. And I think that's the most critical element. And I hope that resonates, because if we recruit on the numbers, we're playing a lottery.
No, great. Yeah, the question is whether the contact sport is rugby union or rugby league. But we'll leave
Union.
leave that for a moment. I do have a follow-up question from this that I want to push on just a little bit, and I know we're over our hour, and if my fellow board members will agree. To what extent we have a board and a port council. We all respect each other. We all have different backgrounds and don't always agree with each other. Mm-hmm. To what extent have you worked in searches where you have board members who are on the hiring committee who have different takes on what's necessary?
Wow. That's surprisingly common, actually, because it's rare that any senior hire is signed off by one individual and didn't meet multiple individuals, and they all have their nuances. I think why I chose the example of the organization with the 20 plus board members was to highlight that point. And they will have had their own individual wants and wishes. Finding a consensus candidate is the diplomacy and skill a little bit on our side, and that's to tease from you the information that we need without being in any way disrespectful and upsetting the process or those whose opinions may differ. And so part of us interviewing the candidates and getting the right one will be the skill to create a brief, but that is really an interview of your organization, and there may be multiple individuals involved in that, and we would welcome and encourage more than one opinion to put into the pot so that we can use those ingredients to find you the right candidates. I don't know if Matthew has something to add, but I would say that's quite common these days, that there's multiple hiring boards.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I couldn't say that any better, I don't think, Jonathan. Yeah, no. It's not unusual at all.
The consensus CEO was an interesting phrase. Yeah, thank you. Okay, unless, I'd do anybody else on this working group have any further questions, or should we call it a day and thank you?
Just one quick one.
Go.
And it was just to confirm, you guys would be the ones on this search?
That's a great question. And that's, if we had longer together, we would go into more areas. We are the people you will see who will deliver this search. We would be the face of the Steamship authority, and there's no junior team and resources behind the scenes that we would send this off to. In fact, that is another one, and should have been in my USPs. We don't use a junior team at all to recruit for anything you would put our way. It's delivered by the people you see, unless otherwise stated.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nat, anything further?
No, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Jones, anything further, Bob?
No, but I certainly appreciated the interview and I learned a lot. So thank you very much.
As did I.
Agreed.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
To work this through internally and get back certainly within 1 or 2 weeks with a response. But
very good.
Your time, as well as I'll echo, you helped us learn a lot. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Plenty to discuss, but we look forward to hearing from you.
All the best. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Jim, we just need a motion to adjourn. Don't forget.
Yeah. At this point, I would be welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Chairman.
All right, we have a motion. We need a roll call.
Muneer, aye.
Jones, aye.
Lowell, aye.
And Malcolm, aye. Thank you, everybody. I will circle back with Janice and have her schedule a time for our next meeting to discuss our thoughts on how we go forward. Be well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.